So it may be that the Iranians will also try and hit them in Afghanistan.
Tell me, what's your judgment? Pakistan then withdrawn its ambassador from Iran, which is always a worrying sign. I mean, how worrying do you think this Iranian strike at this militant group across the Pakistan border is?
Well, they've got form on this, the Iranians. Not the first time they've attacked what they call anti-regime or terrorist groups in Pakistan and Balochistan. So there is some form. It's part of a sort of wider pattern at the moment. They've attacked what they called was the Mossad headquarters in Iraq, in Erbil, in northern Iraq, and they've attacked some anti-Syrian groups in Syria. It may be that they're taking advantage of some of the wider chaos to launch these attacks against groups that they regard as hostile, different groups, different sets of hostilities. It may be, they're just taking advantage of the general chaos to launch these attacks and to satisfy their own security services that they're not just being picked off.
Right. I mean, so many conversations now end up with the question, will there be escalation, whether it's the Red Sea, whether it's the northern border of Israel with Lebanon against Hezbollah? What about this one? Could this one escalate? And if it did, what form might that take?
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, the Pakistanis are going through a sort of bit of turmoil. They don't have a functioning government. There's going to be elections in February. They will, the recall of the ambassadors is a sort of a diplomatic protest. There have been clashes on the border. Pakistan borders Iran, Balochistan. It's a very troubled area for drug smuggling, and the Iranians take a lot of casualties on that border on a daily basis because of the drug smugglers. I suspect the Pakistanis will make a bit of noise, but I can't see them wanting to get drawn into a wider conflict.
Right.
The Iranians were victims of the ISIS in Khorasan, or the ISIS group in Afghanistan, who claimed responsibility for a terrorist attack a few weeks ago on a funeral of a IRGC leader. So it may be that the Iranians will also try and hit them in Afghanistan.
Right. Now, just lastly and briefly, as an old diplomatic hand in the region, how worried are you about regional escalation around the war in Gaza, over the Red Sea, over the northern border of Israel? How do you appraise it?
Well, there's a lot going on, and there's not much diplomacy to bring it to a halt. So I'm worried about miscalculation. Nobody really intends to have a wider war. The Iranians don't want a wider war. I don't think the Israelis want a wider war beyond Gaza and the West Bank, and certainly the Americans don't want one. But that doesn't mean to say that people in reacting to individual events, something might happen that creates a more profound conflict. I mean, in a sense, the escalation that we feared has already happened. There are exchanges in the Red Sea with the Houthis. There are cross-border exchanges in Lebanon. There are attacks in Syria. And now the Iranians are responding to an unrelated terrorist group. But, there's an awful lot going on, and there's a prospect of miscalculation.